Today we're making tiramisu from scratch. Hi everyone, welcome to Black Cat Kitchen. I hope you're doing well. Today we're making tiramisu from scratch. Tiramisu is an Italian-style trifle. They use Ladyfinger or Savoiardi biscuits dipped in coffee and rum, and there's a beautiful mascarpone cream between the layers. I've dusted off my Nonna's old recipe book and pulled this one out especially to share with you. So let's get started. See the description below for a list of ingredients. I'm going to show you how to make these Savoiardi biscuits from scratch. There's nothing wrong with store-bought Savoiardi biscuits, but they're a little bit dry, a little bit more crunchy, and they don't give you that nice texture when you bite into your tiramisu. These are really easy to make, and they really elevate your tiramisu to a different level. Into the bowl of our stand mixer, I'm breaking 3 eggs and 100 grams of castor sugar. We're going to give it a quick whisk together, and then we're going to cook it over a double boiler. I've got some water coming up to boil in a pan, and I'm going to place my bowl on top of that. You want to make sure that your bowl doesn't touch the water, so make sure you have a reasonable sized pan to your bowl. We're going to whisk this until it comes to 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 72 degrees centigrade. I'm going to use a candy thermometer, but you can use an instant read if you have one. Once it reaches 160 degrees, we'll put it on our stand mixer with the whisk attachment, and we're going to whisk it on high for about 8 to 10 minutes until it's doubled in size. About halfway through the whisking process, we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. You want to make sure that your mix is cold at this point because the heat will kill off the vanilla flavor. Back to mixing. Now that it's light and fluffy and pale in color, we're going to fold in our flour. To 150 grams of flour, I'm just going to add a pinch of salt and give that a little stir. And then we'll fold it into our egg mixture. Once it's all combined, we're going to put it into a large piping bag and pipe neat rows. I've drawn some lines on the underside of my parchment paper, 3 inches apart, so that I know exactly how big my biscuits should be. And I'm going to be piping them about 1 inch wide. And you'll want to leave at least 1 inch between each biscuit. The secret to perfect Savoiardi is dusting them with powdered sugar right before they go in the oven. You want to give them a good generous dusting, and then you're going to go back and dust them a second time. Now these are going into a preheated oven at 180 degrees centigrade or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes. In 2 bowls, we're going to separate our eggs. So we want our egg whites at room temperature in one bowl, making sure not to get any of that egg yolk in there, and our egg yolks in the other. There isn't any in here, but if you do happen to get egg yolk into your egg white, it's really important to get it out. And the best way to do that is to use a little bit of leftover shell and just dip it into the egg white until the yolk comes out. The yolk will be automatically attracted to the inside of the shell. We're now going to whisk our egg whites to very stiff peaks. You want these to be very stiff. The best way to test if your egg whites are stiff enough is by flipping the bowl over your head. We're going to whisk up our egg yolks with 100 grams of castor sugar until they're light and fluffy. I'm going to slowly add the sugar in while the eggs are whisking. Once your egg yolk mixture has gone really pale, we're going to add in our mascarpone cheese, 500 grams. You want your mascarpone cheese to be at room temperature. And we're going to whisk that again until it's nice and smooth. Now that that's all combined, we're going to fold in our stiff egg whites. We'll start by adding a small amount of the egg white And now that that's lightened up the egg yolk mixture, we can add the rest in. We want to keep all of that air in there, so now we're going to really gently fold from the bottom, pull it through. Now that our cream is ready, it's time for assembly. To a shallow container, add a few tablespoons, I've used 3 here, of granulated sugar. And to this, we're going to add 300 milliliters of espresso. You can use really strong brewed coffee here as well. And 3 tablespoons of dark rum. Marsala wine would also work in this instance. Give that a good stir together until you hear that sugar has dissolved. Now here's the trick to perfectly dipping your biscuits. If you're using fresh biscuits, you simply want to dip 1, 2, flip and out, and then into your dish. If you're using store-bought biscuits, you'll want to dip them for slightly longer on each side because they are quite dry and crispy. 1, 2, flip and out. Once our first layer of biscuits is down, we're going to add our cream. You're just going to want to spread that out until it completely covers. And now onto biscuit layer number 2. And now another layer of cream. And I think we can just about manage one more layer of biscuits in here. And now for our final layer of cream. Depending on how big your bowl is, you could either have 2 or 3 layers with this. I'm going to generously dust the top with cocoa powder and leave it in the fridge for about 3 hours. If you're patient enough, leaving it overnight is even better. There's still just a little bit of a dry spot in the middle of that biscuit there. That's what we want, and that's why we dipped it so carefully in the coffee earlier. Now let's give it a taste. The first thing you get when you put it in your mouth is that luscious, creamy mascarpone, and it's just so light and airy from those egg whites. And then you get that hit of the coffee and the rum, and you've got the bitterness of the coffee, but you've got the sweetness and the sharpness of the rum. And then you get right into that biscuit, and oh, it just gives the perfect resistance against the cream. It's actually not as sweet as you think it would be. We really didn't use a lot of sugar in this recipe. That bitter, unsweetened cocoa really gives a different dimension to the sweetness of the cream when it hits your mouth. It's just a very fine layer, but it really balances out those flavors wonderfully. You can tell why this is a classic. Thanks so much for joining us today. Woo! Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. We'll see you next time.